first thing you have to do is figure out if the recipe sounds like something you wouldn't mind eating. My great grandmother was dismayed that I did not like soup. I was young at the time, the sort of age where your sister can fill a toy bowl with water and soap while playing restaurant with you and you'll drink it all, struck by a sudden sense of horrid betrayal as you start burping out bubbles. Every interaction I've had with my father's family happened when I was small. Couldn't tell you much of anything about them. My grandfather, Pop Pop, as we called him, was fat. It's not a whole lot to know about a person. My only memory of my paternal great-grandmother is of her in the kitchen. My elder sister and I were at her place, an apartment, I think. A bar with a granite countertop separated the kitchen from the living room. She busied herself flitting around behind the counter. She fed my sister bananas, and she was upset that I did not like soup. I still do not like soup. I've yet to take in a single variety that I enjoy. Often broth tastes as if it has a grainy texture. No one really understands what I mean when I say that. Their faces collapse into a central point somewhere along the bridge of their nose. Surely I mean it is grainy, they insist, in which case I'm having bad soup. But alas, I mean that it tastes as if it has that texture. I've always had a weird thing about textures. The one time I've gone skiing, the texture of the snow underneath the skis rising up through the boots and into my bones revolted me. When my parents picked us back up, they talked about how my great-grandmother had a habit of shoveling food into others. It was her love language. My late 20s have made me understand that. When I love a man, I want to feed him. I want to feel his lips enclose around my fingers as I place sweets past his teeth. I want to lie back on the counter as he sips champagne from my navel. I want to bake. Did it hurt her when I refused her soup? Did it feel as if this small child was rejecting her in the only way she knew how to reach out? That second question is a bit absurd. She was too complicated for that. I assume so, anyway, I wouldn't know. This memory is all I have of her. I use great-grandmother not in any attempt at universality via distancing, but I simply don't know her name. I've never heard it uttered in my life. They said she wanted constantly full stomachs because that was simply the way Italian women were. It isn't a love of cooking that drives them to the kitchen. La bella cucina is not beautiful because food is beautiful. The stove is simply where love is born. It is the womb. Ingredients go in and the stuff of life comes out. I'm a quarter Italian. My great-grandparents set out from Sicily to make a life in the United States. Like all the best Italian families, they wound up in Jersey. I don't know why I said it like that. My grandfather did not take an Italian woman for his bride, so the pizza sauce of our family tree diluted a little bit. Mom comes straight from the melting pot, an amalgamation of too many things to count, though God help her with all her binders filled with genealogical research, she certainly tries her best to count all of it. So I am a quarter Italian. Sicily does not sing songs from the Italian countryside into my ears. I do not know my father's side of the family, and I've never cared too much to reach out to them. There were no large Italian communities in the small towns I grew inside. My fingers do not itch to visit Rome, nor have I ever attempted to learn the language. Yet I persist in identifying as Italian. Is it stolen valor to claim an identity you don't much identify with? In 2020, I started to bake. A lot of people took up baking that year to deal with the deafening despair of the coronavirus pandemic, yet this corona took it up for a mostly unrelated reason. See, I graduated from college with a degree in theater in 2020. My entire industry disappeared, so I moved back in with my parents. When the holiday season rolled around, I took up the family tradition of making treats. Every year we make hundreds of cookies. There hasn't been a single year where we have eaten all of these sweets. Still, we make them. We don't pull back. I long to make more each and every time. In the recipe books that held the secrets to elixirs of cookies, brownies, and tarts, I came across instructions for an onion focaccia. In the bottom corner of the page, there is an Italian version. My mother doesn't have a sweet tooth. Everyone on social media had spent the year making bread. The Great British Bake Off got me through those few weeks before the lease for my college apartment ended. so I endeavored to make it. Bread, it turns out, has a disgusting texture. It's sticky. Even when you coat your hands in flour, strands cling to your fingers like the redacted for YouTube. Textures are difficult for me to handle. Focaccia is a wet, wet dough. Perhaps there isn't enough water in my blood, or maybe there's too much. If there was a mistake in the ingredients, things would have made sense, I thought. I was wrong, like I so often am. When I was about 5 years old, my mother worked as the receptionist at a dance studio my sister and I trained at. Tap, jazz, and gymnastics each held me once a week for about an hour. On the other days, I did my homework, read, or played on my Game Boy out in the lobby. I could not figure out how to beat the Elite Four in Pokemon Leaf Green for a few months. Perhaps I wasn't as smart as my teachers thought. One time, whilst I sat and read, silent as I always am, a woman walked over to my mother. "Where'd you adopt that autistic Chinese boy from?" Mom insists I'm combining a couple of different events into one. People wondered about my position on the spectrum, some asked if I was adopted, one lady assumed I was Asian. These events did not all happen at once. My sister used to try her best to convince me I was adopted. After all, I don't look much like either of our parents. No one in the family shares my blue hazel eyes. I'm not adopted as it turns out. I look quite similar to my mother's dead father. When I look at photos of him, he looks familiar. He looks like me. There was a single week I thought I might not be of my family tree. Surely that wasn't enough, though, to set in this need to identify my roots with soil that I don't care to explore. Proving bread isn't particularly enjoyable. On TV, they cut out most of the waiting. You sit there as the bowl sits in the turned off oven. You play on your phone and read over the recipe. Time always stretches when you're waiting on baking. The bread grows. Accusations of Asianness disappeared until the rare occasion in high school. My best friend at the time, another plain white boy, received similar racial comments. They ceased entirely in college, though. No, in college, like a true Italian actor, people thought I might be Jewish. I spent a semester acting in student films as part of an acting for the camera course. I smoked 2 packs of cigarettes for a single scene. I was alright. Maybe I was good? I'm not sure. One of the shorts I was in was written by a guy who wasn't involved in the shoots or classes. He didn't know my name. He did know, though, that I was friends with an editor he was friends with. So in order to contact me, he asked her, "Hey, who's that vaguely Jewish kid?" "Who, Jared?" she told me, she responded. Punch the bread. It's fun to punch the bread. Italian men are meant to be angry. That's what you learn when you watch the great films of the 20th century. They are mobsters who laugh and eat and quickly pull out guns. They're quick to throw Molotovs and F-bombs. They're hairy and they copulate a lot. Life is supposed to be about family, and there's only one real way to get that after all. I was an angry child who had a hard time reading social situations. Emotions filled my tiny body and exploded out in tears or fists. I'd sob or shout as I sat at the dining room table and my father berated me about eating the food he put in front of me. Once I worked myself up so much I vomited my dinner right back onto the plate. He went to the kitchen, fixed me a new one of all the things that I did not want to taste, and plopped it right back in front of me. Mom was scared that I maybe might kill him. That sounds dramatic, and as a theater person, I am dramatically inclined, but it's the truth of how things were back then. I held a lot of anger in an extremely strict view of morality. Justice was cold, cruel, and exact. In puberty, I inched past both my parents in height. I'm the tallest out of all of us. 5'7" is truly a corona giant. There was too much rage inside of me. I stabbed empty boxes with a pocket knife. I was a bad bake with a bad taste. So I killed my anger. Or at least I made it mine and mine alone. I do not yell, I do not fight. I whisper conversations on 15-minute drives sometimes. I pace about my room, I clench my fists, then splay my fingers and repeat. Most often these days, I simply cry. My anger is still in the process of dying. It's rotting somewhere within my stomach. At 27, it escapes in the occasional burp. It is nice to punch the bread. Now, before the second proof, I add a heap of garlic powder, a bit of onion powder, and Italian seasoning. Sometimes I add cheese. None of this is in the recipe book. Set it aside, turn on the stove, and get to work on a wet topping before it goes in the oven. Butter, garlic, onions, salt, and pepper. I love the taste of garlic seasoning. I add it to most things I cook and bake. It goes on burgers, pizza, even popcorn. My dad used to say you only know you've used enough garlic when you can walk into the kitchen and taste it when you breathe in through the nose. This is what it means to be Italian, he'd say, though not in those exact words. Why do I identify as Italian? I have little to no cultural connection. The biological one is weak and watered down like the worst sorts of tomato sauces. Is it because to say I'm just a plain white bread American feels too plain? But I don't particularly care about culture. I have no interest in Italian or American traditions. I make no effort to find community in Italian circles. If I identify as anything, it's as a queer man. It's as an artist. Italian men are emotional and expressive. We're flamboyant and we cry. I cry a lot. I soak my doughy body until I'm wet enough to make focaccia. You have to shape the dough. I plop it down on a baking sheet and stretch it into a circle. For focaccia, you have to add little dents in the loaf. I use my fingers pressing down into the wet over and over in concentric circles. You pour in the topping. I add Parmesan. It goes in the oven. I like to eat. I like to eat at specific times. 5:30 is time for dinner even if I'm not hungry because you're supposed to eat, and that's the time I have designated for eating. Sometimes I go against that trend. I eat too much. My body no longer grows up, it only grows out. I look back on my youth and think, wow, he was petite. Back then, I thought I was fat. Since puberty, I've hated the shape my bread has taken. My general structure is that of my maternal grandfather, but slowly my body takes after the paternal one. There are days when I am fat, yet I think the same on days when I am not. Is it still body dysmorphia when sometimes you're right? Maybe I'm Italian because I was taught Italianness is all about food. I am an Italian grandmother. I enjoy feeding others. I enjoy feeding myself. In a way, at least. It makes for a powerful beast when it combines with my oral fixation. I eat most when I'm sad or anxious or stressed. Fullness feels better on the body than crushing, shaking, and emptiness. I wrote once in a poem that I eat as though I can devour grief, digest it deep in my gut, and finally expel it. When the bakers on Bake Off look in the oven, they spot all the flaws in the rise and colors of their breads. I am a bun, and mirrors are often oven doors. For 2 years, I kept a bedsheet draped over my mirror because I could not stand the shape of my bread. Sometimes, now, I think I'm cute. It's happening a bit more often. I'm trying to eat less, to exercise more, to discipline myself into health. I wonder if there's ever been a point in life where I've had a healthy relationship with food. You're supposed to take the bread out when it's reached a certain color, but my color blindness means I rely on timers and baking time alone. If someone's nearby, I'll ask them about the color. Take the bread out of the oven and place it on a cooling rack. It's hot. It's still baking even now. Perhaps there's potential in my blood to find joy in food. I'm a degenerate progressive whore, yet when I see tradwife content online, I understand the draw. It would be nice to get married and have a man to take care of, to fill with food, to hold his stomach and know I'm the one who put that life in him. My great-grandmother was hurt when I said I didn't like soup. When I bake, I make everyone try it, and my mood for the rest of the day hangs on whether or not they like it. When I put cookies in a storage tin, I think about my failed romances and how I'd love to show up at their doors, present them with sweets, and watch them light up, because they already love what I can make. It would hurt if he hated it. I was made in the form of one of my grandfathers. I am turning into my great-grandmother. Is this what it means to call myself Italian? When the bread has cooled, take a bread knife and slice it up. It's easier to store in tiny pieces. I sit with the loaf and place piece after piece between my lips. I moan, my eyes flutter upwards. It's delicious, it's warm, it's garlicky. This is my favorite bread to make. Everyone else eats a little, but it's almost always up to me to eat the majority. If you leave me alone, I can eat all of it in a day. Perhaps one day someone will swallow me and grin at my taste. Take that however you want. Maybe I call myself Italian because at the end of the day, that's the sort of bread I like to bake. It's the sort of bread I'd like to be. If you bite into me, I want to taste like my Italian focaccia. I suppose I should accept whatever flavors I wind up carrying. Someone will wind up enjoying me, and I'll fill him up until he's full every day. As long as I don't taste like grainy goddamn soup. Howdy, and thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, share if you're feeling saucy. You can join me over on Patreon if you would like, wherein you'll get these videos and others early. You'll also get to have some fun behind the scenes access to some of my art projects, some more personal vlogging style content, and you'll just get to support me, and we'll get to chat about art a whole bunch, which is what I love to do most. You can go over to Amazon Smashwords or wherever you get your ebooks and purchase a copy of my poetry collections, Butterfly Snuff, and A Museum of Art and Eggs, both of which are also available in paperback and hardback. I have a second channel where I'm just reading through a bunch of public domain stuff for the fun of it and through my own work, so you'll get readings of these poetry collections and some short stories and some longer form fiction when I get around to it, and some plays. And I have a third channel where I'm uploading my music and art instead of having it all clog up this channel. So go support those if you feel like it. That content, a lot of it will also be getting uploaded early to Patreon. So if you want all of my stuff in one convenient space, Patreon is the place to go, which would be really cool of you, you know? I hope you have a fantastic day. Do not be rude in the comments. Do not go and harass anybody. And I will see you next time.